What's going on, everybody? We are the Cinefanatics. We are here to talk about the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. My name is Robert Adams.
I'm Chris Adams.
What's going on tonight, y'all? Woo! It is Friday night. Nice, relaxed end of the week. Man, just shake it loose. Just everybody get loosey-goosey. Let's talk about this fat wuss here.
Look at me. I'm Enchantress from Suicide Squad.
Oh God. Okay. End of episode. Just good night, everybody. Let's just go ahead and wrap it up. Oh, just kidding. Just kidding.
Well played. Well played.
Apparently, this is the tagline also. So.
No.
Oh man, thank y'all for joining us tonight as we talk about episode 2 of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. This was a great episode. As we get into this, though, y'all know the YouTube things. Y'all have questions, comments, anything you want to talk, interject. Make sure you hit them up on the Streamlab. Streamlab.com/Cinefanatics. It's the one above you, yes. Anything y'all want to comment, say, donate, numbers, everything goes to that Streamlabs. You could also do Super Chat on YouTube if you would like. We accept Super Chat as well. Streamlabs is the most preferred blah, 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 blah words. You could also hit up Patreon, patreon.com/Cinefanatics. Hop on the tier that you would like to hop on, the one that most benefits you, not what benefits us, what benefits you. What can we do to you? How can help us help you? I don't know. Anyways, tomorrow night, yeah, exactly. Tomorrow night, if you are on the Dude tier, which is the $5 sweet spot tier, you will be able to join us as we watch Kong Skull Island live tomorrow night. That'll be, what's that? It's going to be like around 7 Pacific, 10 Eastern, Kong Skull Island. If you join us live during that, there will also be a giveaway for the Blu-ray copy of that movie. So in celebration of Godzilla vs. Kong coming out this next week, we're going to watch Kong Skull Island because I don't want to watch the Godzilla movies. So let's just be honest.
Monkey.
Yeah. Anyways, let's dive into some fat wuss here. What are your thoughts and feelings?
My thought and feeling is we've got in total 6 episodes to try to figure out whether fat wuss actually works or not. Right now, I'm going
to see if we can just write it out. Like by the end of the episode, we're like, you know what, this really doesn't work. I feel like this might be like slightly offensive to some people. Let's just stop using it. And it's like the 6th episode, and it really doesn't matter anymore. Like, let's do that.
Well, now that you've seen the behind the scenes discussion of what we're gonna do. No, so here's the thing with this episode of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. This episode was jam-packed with stuff. There's so much to go over here. First of all, right off the top, I'll say I really enjoyed this one. They did some things here in this episode that took a lot of us by surprise out here. And it's really cool because the beautiful thing about it is that Marvel is in this place now with their characters and with their stories. So they can take some of these risks, or they can do some of these other characters that I don't think anyone would have imagined would have ever gotten like screen time in a movie or a TV show format. So there's going to be a lot of fun stuff to dive into and kind of go over some of these characters who have appeared and may mean something later on down the road. Overall, really, really enjoyed this episode. I think it was a nice, tight episode, packed full of stuff, and is going to be like probably the pivotal episode that informs the rest of the season. So, what did you think of the episode?
I liked, like last week, the first episode was really like, here's where these characters' headspaces are. We got that. We didn't even get Falcon and Bucky interacting in the first episode. We just saw, I'm going to repeat myself, where their heads were at. And that's all we got, which I like that. Yeah. Where's your head at? I do like that. And then this episode, the thing I like about this in comparison is you just got Falcon and Bucky just like all of a sudden are just thrown together. There wasn't like a, hey, how's it going, dude? Hey, hadn't seen you in a while. It was just like, hey, let me talk to you real quick. And then boom, Falcon and Winter Soldier are together. Hey, so I like that.
Step outside real quick. You're a jerk.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun stuff in this episode. That being said, we're going to try to pack in as much in here as possible within as short a time as possible because we don't want to go all night tonight. We're going to try to do this probably in under an hour as much as possible here. So we are actually going to be changing up the format just a little bit. Y'all let us know if you like this more. In the past, whether we've done it with WandaVision or the first episode of this series, we were doing like a recap of the episode, kind of going scene by scene, so to speak, through it. We're going to try to stay away from doing that and just kind of hit some of the big stuff that we really want to talk about. And hopefully we can get some good discussion of that. So if we hit any of these things that you really want to talk about, or we're somewhere within the episode that there was something else that we're not mentioning that you want to talk about, again, Streamlabs, best place to get our attention to throw it into the mix so we can talk about it and make sure that we highlight that. Otherwise,
like this.
Hey, I want to talk about Falcon's wings some more.
Wait, you can't do that. So yeah, Streamlabs would be good. Yeah.
The arm waving is relatable to a 20 spot. Or you can just keep the chat up going over there on the side, and we would absolutely love to see what you guys have to say over there as well. So starting things off, I think we want to talk about kind of the big thing that kicked off the entire episode, which is we're diving into big old plate. We're diving into the character of John Walker, or our new Captain America, as he's being known as right now. There he is. That's his interesting white bread face. I say that. Well, Wyatt Russell. First of all, Wyatt Russell, great guy. Like in this episode, he really kills it in this role, and you have to understand that there's a little bit of a acting pedigree for him coming from Kurt Russell and that whole family, and Goldie Hawn and that whole family. So he's killing it in this episode as this character. But
every time I see him, I want a Wonder Bread peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
Exactly.
That's
cut the crust off.
Yes, diagonally. It has to be cut in diagonals. Well, I want triangles. It's not going to taste right unless you cut it into triangles.
And I need it to be Skippy, creamy peanut butter with Smucker's grape jelly. Neither one of those are sponsors. None of them.
You could be Jif. You could be Jif.
I mean, I personally like Jif, but I thought Skippy would be a funnier. Anyway, what I really like is that from the beginning here, we got
the peanut butter debate.
Welcome to the peanut butter and the winter peanut butter. I really like that we did a little bit of a dive into his backstory without actually doing like a flashback of his character here. We kind of just dived right into finding out about him. Like I believe he was back at his high school because he was looking at his initials on his locker while he was in the locker room waiting to go out and make that appearance at the game there
at the stadium. Yeah.
At the stadium. So I really enjoyed that. First of all, not to take too long here because I want to hear what your thoughts are as well. But I love that. What the internet was saying after his appearance at the end of last week's episode. Mm-hmm. And he just wink at the camera and everyone's like, I hate this guy. I want to punch him. Get rid of him. And then immediately we start off going, well, I've been a soldier and I'm just, this responsibility is huge. And I just want to make sure I'm doing a good job. And we're like, damn it, I like him now.
Piece of crap. I'd feel terrible.
I like him now.
So I will interject that, like, as a comic book fan, especially like during the 90s when Captain America the comics were really focusing on his character, the super patriot U.S. agent. I still can't stand U.S. agent. I hate that character. It's just, it's just such an annoying,
It's just like, hey, we can't think of a new character. What should we do? Oh, just do Captain America again.
You know who he reminds me of? The character of U.S. Agent, how I always read him in the comics. If you've ever seen that movie Liar, Liar, Cary Elwes's character in that is just so like,
the claw. The claw is coming for you.
I think Jim Carrey at one point in that movie, he refers to Cary Elwes as like Magoo. Like, it's just, I don't know what a Magoo is, whether it's like Mr. Magoo was like an old man who was blind who walks off ledges or something, but I don't know like what Magoo was in the use that Jim Carrey said. But that's what I think when I think of U.S. agent is like, just okay.
I believe the word you're looking for is smarmy.
Bland. He's just not even smart. Smarmy is someone who he kind of knows that he's being a jerk. He doesn't care, and he just gets away with it. This one, that wasn't like Cary Elwes's character. He was just bland, just nothing. Yeah. Just weird personality. That's the only way I can explain it. That's what I always thought with U.S. Agent.
You're outgoing, but you probably shouldn't be.
Yeah, possibly.
Look
at that face. Just
hey guys, I'm Captain America.
I'm gonna fast forward to this one. I'm gonna put this image up later too. Look at him in this image. Just God, I hate U.S. Agent. And I think that's what the show is wanting us to do, is to hate him eventually. So
maybe. And actually, I got a lot to say about him as we go move forward a little bit more, as we get some more stuff from him in this episode. But rewind back to his time in that locker room, though, and then his coming out and just kind of talking to that reporter. I believe it almost sounded like he was doing like a Good Morning America type segment. Yeah. So he really was, as Rachel was saying here, he comes across as sincere, and it only emphasizes that being Cap is about more than good intentions. Yeah, he comes across as really sincere, but I think that he's just, I believe the word that I want to use here is underdeveloped. He doesn't quite know exactly what it means to take up that shield yet, but he knows that there is responsibility to it.
So to sum him up real quick, is he's just annoying until he opens his mouth, and then you're like, oh, okay. that was it. Like, in looks only, he's terrible character.
he 100% has moments where he opens his mouth in this episode and goes, hey, maybe you shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
Probably wasn't a good idea, buddy. But I do want to move on here. A lot of stuff to go into on his character here in a little bit still, but I love that he came out to that Star Spangled Man with a Plan. The marching band was playing that. The way it's relatable is that he's coming out to the same song that Steve was coming out to when he was doing the war bonds and he was being toured around during the war and everything. And it's kind of like the same thing. They're touring him around. Here's your new Captain America, and he's coming out to the classic Captain America song. Yeah. So it's a nice little
your best man's gun.
Exactly. It's kind of a nice like touchback, throwback to what Marvel does. And again, the real quick highlight, this is just what I love about Marvel, is that they're able to go back and do stuff like that. They're able to pull up stuff from like 2011 and bring it back. And it's still relevant.
Well, what I'm wondering about this is psychologically wise, with using this specific song, kind of like at the end of the first episode, they show him standing there with the shield, and you can see like Sam Wilson's face is like, oh, yeah, why? And they kind of touch upon that. I felt like more of that. Like, I understand Sam's got those feelings. I, as the viewer, didn't have those feelings until this episode. When they played that song, I was like, no, that's Steve's song. You don't play that for someone else. Like, I felt offended by that. And I think that's what Sam felt with seeing him with the shield in the first episode. I was like, you don't know. Stop playing that. You need to play Yankee Doodle Dandy or something when he comes out.
And I think they're doing a good job, because I think that's how you're supposed to feel. Because if you're watching Sam and you're watching Bucky, both of them are feeling the exact same way. Like, this is sacrilegious. Like, he's sitting there on the screen talking about that. He feels like he's like Steve is a brother to him. And Bucky's like, are you kidding me? No, we're not doing this. No.
Yeah, so I wonder if anyone else kind of felt that connection whenever they heard that Star Spangled Man with the Plan. I do like what Brett's saying here, because I felt like the whole internet was like this too. Like, I saw edits of people putting the Captain America mask on Carl Fredrickssen's face, and I thought that was perfect. And I know we've mentioned before, if y'all are fans of like vloggers, he also kind of looked like Casey Neistat. If you don't know Casey Neistat, just Google him real quick, see his face, you'll be like, yep, got it. It's really funny.
But yeah, So a lot of stuff going on there. Next, I want to like fast forward a little bit. We got Bucky and Sam back together. We're jumping ahead, and they are about to go on that little venture to go find and hunt down the flag smashers because there's something going on with these guys. And I love just the side note real quick. He's like, are they one of the big three? You know, what's the big three? Aliens, androids, and wizards?
That's not a thing.
That's not a thing. Well, we got the sorcerers. They're just wizards without hats.
I do like he said, like, well, what about Gandalf? Like, how do you know about Gandalf? It's like, I read it when the book first came out back in 1930 something or another.
In 1937. Yeah, it's hilarious. But what I love about this is once again, it's something else that the MCU is doing specifically within this show now, where they're kind of touching base on some meta stuff. They're kind of going back and going, okay, we recognize that we're a comic book property, but the heroes within the comic book property are recognizing that the world is kind of ludicrous also within here. Touching back like on the last episode when the banker was asking Sam, like, how do you guys get paid? And that's something that a lot of us have wondered out here, because it made sense if like Tony was bankrolling them, but Tony's not around anymore. But here it's like, do they recognize that they're really just fighting faceless hordes of either aliens or androids or, you know, what have you? We got magic users and stuff. So I think it's a fun little nod to the ridiculousness of the comic book genre and what they experience within their world.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so I do want to touch on Bucky and Sam's relationship here in a little bit. Specifically, I'm going to probably more into when we get to the therapy scene. But the enemy, the bad guys right now, we want to touch on is the Flag Smashers. We saw them last episode, and they were kind of actually they were faceless. Obviously now we have faces to them, but they were kind of faceless last episode because they all wore masks, and you know, it wasn't known, are these guys really going to be like a major threat throughout this series? Are they the ones we're focused on? Because we know that Zemo is going to come into play. And so wondering, who are these Flag Smashers? Well, in this episode, it does feel like they are going to have a bigger role throughout all 6 episodes. But the question here is, and this episode's kind of muddling the waters a little bit, because we felt like they were just straight up bad guys before, with the motives of bringing the world back to blip status where half the population is gone. But is that their actual motives? Is that what they're really after? Or are we dealing with a group that maybe like anti-hero, and we have misconceptions about what their true motives are, and it's all been hearsay up until this point? Who are they? Are they actually good? Because we have a moment where they're being touted as like Robin Hoods here, where they're taking from the haves and giving to the have-nots, essentially. What say you? What do you think? Because I think that it's going to be an interesting dynamic if that is the case, if they are kind of middle of the road here.
I do like it. I liked the idea to begin with that they were basically copying Thanos' idea. I mean, you'll see people talk about like Avengers, Infinity War, Endgame all over the place, that Thanos' idea, while it does mean like destruction of like trillions of people, even higher than trillions across the entire known and unknown universe, like his reasoning was kind of sound. And when he was talking about like the resources are finite, like all of this is finite, and yet life continues to duplicate itself, to continue to spawn and breed. And so he was looking at it from like, I am a god and I've got to control it as much as I can. I need to reduce the population by half just to buy us more time. Yeah. I mean, if the math on that kind of an idea checks out, the morally is completely bad and terrible, but the math checks out. So I don't need anyone in the comments thinking that Robert's going to become a tyrant and Robert wants to see like half of everyone gone, because that's not what I'm about to.
So now that half the hosts of the show are gone, I would love to hear what you guys in the chat have to say about this as well. Is Robert really wrong for snapping himself out of existence in this show? Or is it possible that... No, actually, I like this. This is good.
Oh, look, I'm back. Anyways, so yeah, like I get that idea that they're trying to do with that, just to still try to make resources and humans continue to exist. Again, the idea, the math is sound, but yeah,
the execution is kind of
the execution is not so good. So I like that, but again, like we're saying, is that what they're actually doing in this show? And we don't have that fully realized yet.
Possibly. What I love, though, and this is kind of like a side point to their motives and what they're doing, is that once again, like we had a little bit with WandaVision, we're getting to see the beginnings of what does the overall effects of what Thanos did, and then what Hulk undid. What are the actual effects of that on at least planet Earth right now? I know we're probably going to get some of that later on as we go cosmic again with, say, like Eternals and what have you, but it's really cool to see what the effects are right now, because you can't just come out of Endgame without and continuing your entire like episodic series of movies and TV shows without going, oh yeah, Endgame happened, let's all move on and be happy about it. No, the world went through 5 years of just complete chaos and then went into more chaos when it was all undone. So I love that they're kind of touching on that and exploring that in different ways right now throughout the first two series that we've gotten, both WandaVision and this one. So it is interesting, though, if we're going based off the idea that these guys, these flag smashers, aren't necessarily all bad, and that there is going to be like we actually have good intentions with what we're trying to do. We've just been under some misconception and everything. Then we have a situation where the actress who's playing Carly Morgenthau, Erin Kellerman, she is once again reprising the same type of character that she played in spoilers, Solo, a Star Wars story.
It's not a spoiler. No one's watching that movie. Anyways, as we were.
Fair point. Where she played the character Infus Nest, who started out that movie being an antagonist, but by the end of it, you realize she's actually starting the rebellion against the Empire. So she was actually a good character. So we might have the same situation where we have a character who's starting off looking like an antagonist, but by the end of it might actually be a protagonist in some capacity. Especially as there seems to be another villain in his group that she could be butting heads with here. And I'm not necessarily even talking about Zemo, although it remains to be seen if he has any connection to anybody at all.
Real quick,
yeah.
14 Little Angel. I still haven't seen Solo. Yeah, you have. You've seen Chewbacca. You've seen his gun. Have you seen his dice? You've seen the Millennium Falcon. You've seen Solo. We're good.
Don't worry about it. Anyway, I say skip it. You're good.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
you're getting a Star Wars review in this fat wuss episode.
Oh God. What I like also is that, once again, bringing up, and we're going to touch on a couple of these here, is that there are other characters, like I said up top, that we didn't know that we were going to get, that we didn't know we were going to see in this show or ever in the MCU, because they're characters that weren't like the forefront. They weren't like the Hulks and the Spider-Mans and the Captain Americas and the Iron Mans. Mm-hmm. Heck, Iron Man wasn't even technically the forefront until his movie came out. So yeah, we're getting characters that are just like deep recesses of comic book dumb
lore
and comic book lore. Mm-hmm. And one of those being Lamar Hoskins, or as he's known in the comics and as he mentioned in the show, Battlestar. He is essentially the right-hand man right here to the new Captain America, otherwise known as U.S. Agent in the comics. And he's somebody who also, like many of these other characters, has just some superhuman heightened abilities. And that's whether he actually is showing them within this show right now or does later. I mean, we're still looking at a Captain America in John Walker that doesn't quite have superhuman capabilities yet either. So are we looking at a situation where one or both of these individuals will end up having a super soldier serum put into them at some point is what would be an interesting way to go about this, especially since we are dealing with super soldiers in the Flag Smashers. But yeah, you don't remember too much about this character in the comics, right? I mean, he's kind of
Lamar Hoskins was a war buddy of John Walker. And when John Walker was selected to be like the super patriot U.S. agent, they brought Lamar Hoskins in to basically be the new Bucky. So he was adopting the nickname Bucky. He was wearing pretty much the original Bucky outfit. And then I don't know if this is something that happened in real life or it was just in the comic book storyline, is at some point, someone told Lamar Hoskins, and I do the air quotes, meaning, again, it could have been the writers behind the scenes not realizing what they're doing, is they were calling Lamar Hoskins, who's an African-American person, they were calling him Bucky, in which Bucks used to be a like kind of like a slang term used during like the early days of like slavery and stuff. So they're like, oh, let's not do that anymore. Let's call him Battlestar instead. That sounds so much better. So that's why I don't know if that was something that happened in real life when they created that character. Like, we're just going to call this one the new Bucky. And they're like, you shouldn't do that. Or if it was just something that was written into the comics to kind of, I don't know, maybe make him more of like he's more for like civil rights type of stuff.
Yeah.
If that's where they were going with it, I don't know. But yeah. That's basically his past history.
Yeah. And it's that does feed into a little bit. We're seeing a lot of dynamics in this show that are hitting racial issues as well. And it's actually really fascinating. And we're going to touch on those here in a little bit because there's specifically one other character that's really going to highlight it, as well as another situation that comes up here. But it is fascinating to see them touch on these issues and kind of bring them into our comic book world and say that, yeah, these are real life issues and our superheroes are dealing with them as well. And then you see a little bit of that also when you got our new Captain America here trying to convince Bucky and Sam to join up with him, help him out. And he's like, come on, I need Cap's wingman. And then Sam was like, it's always that last line. It's always that last line. And damn it if that's not the truest thing in this entire show that I've ever heard, because I've seen countless times on the internet where someone is coming in thinking they're well-intentioned when they're talking to somebody else who is of a different demographic than they are. And they're coming in saying something that sounds very supportive. And then they hit you with that last line that's like, you lost me right there at the end. And it's one more situation. It's like we see stuff like this play out in real life, and it's very fascinating to see them kind of pull it in and utilize it within this show as well. Yeah, I even made a face when he said that. Exactly. It's like, ooh, that's not gonna sit well with Sam. That's not gonna play well.
The other thing I want to, before we continue on with like the next thing, the other thing that I thought was really interesting about this, that this episode does give away, is pretty much all of this that we're talking about in relation to the comic books. This all happens in the comics like roughly around the same time. The Captain America comics, late 80s, early 90s, was written by, was it Mark Gruenwald? And yes, I'm having to read that. So I was like, I know this. I'm still reading it, though. Gruenwald. He was the one that really was the forefront of creating like the Super Patriot U.S. agent for creating the Battlestar character here. like a lot of the stuff with the Flag Smashers, what we're going to talk about a little bit later, the Power Broker. Hi, how are you tonight? Welcome. Yeah, everyone say hi to Lola. Hi, Lola. Anyways, he was the one that was like the forefront of creating all of that. And I just love that it was his storyline that really looks like that's the foundation of this entire show so far. Yeah. So really good use of the comic books, or the original source material.
Yeah, and I definitely want to touch on that again a little bit more as we get into more of John Walker too, because there's definitely some stuff underlying there. I think that they're playing out in an interesting way in this show. But the big one I want to touch on, and again, you're a big comic book guy, so I know that you've probably done a little digging into this character as well. Is the appearance of Isaiah Bradley within this show. This is a big one that I don't think anybody was really taking into consideration was actually going to happen when this show started. But it's fascinating to see the different storylines that we're shooting off of the idea of the super soldier, of Captain America, and then the implications within the comic book world that we're now seeing come to life within the MCU as a whole. Of what a super soldier and the different aspects of the program and the experimentation that they did with the super soldier serum in the years to come, in the years down the road. Isaiah Bradley was one of those that underwent experimentation that was, I believe, specific to African Americans at that time. They were doing experimentation strictly on African Americans, and that was it's again one of those things that is like heavily racial in its foundation. So it's really fascinating to see them kind of bring in his character and show his trauma as his character came in here. Do you have any more information on his character? Or?
He was a part of the same project that created Captain America, the Project Rebirth. And it basically, like in the comics, he was known as like the Black Captain America. But like even within the comics themselves, kind of like what I was saying a little while ago with whether or not they knew the Bucky name with Battlestar. At the comics at the time, they kind of played it like, look, we're going to take an African American and make him a super soldier. Mm-hmm. Don't tell anybody because people won't like this. Like that was the viewpoint at that time when he was given that super soul, when he went through the Project Rebirth. So everything about him was kept quiet. And the only people who seemingly knew about him were some of the higher up heavy hitters of like the African American superheroes. Or just any of the Black superheroes, because I'm going to say like Black Panther as well, who's not African American. Right. But like a lot of them, Luke Cage was one of the first like prominent Black heroes in Marvel, along with Falcon. And Luke Cage would always refer to him as like, hey, that's the original version of me. That's what like he came before I did. But he was so rooted within history that like a lot of these people knew him. But you got characters that had lived through that weren't that prominent. Like, for example, Wolverine. Wolverine lived all through World War II. He fought side by side with Captain America, and he lived through everything since World War II, and he never knew of Isaiah Bradley. So... Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the show is actually, they're kind of treating him exactly like the comics, which is a nice connection to the way his character was developed in the comics. And this is kind of cool because I don't recall actually ever seeing anything currently of how he felt about his treatment back when he was younger, going through that, like how he was kept hush hush. So this is nice. This is a nice like kind of interaction with that.
It was fascinating because it's our first appearance of this character within this series. They're bound to revisit him. Hopefully they revisit him because there's definitely some more stuff to unpack there. But where the short amount of screen time that he had here was super impactful to the story, specifically also to Sam. Rachel brings it up here. Meeting him meant so much to Sam. If he had known everything that he went through, his decision with the shield would have been different. Because Isaiah went through some BS, essentially. essentially being thrown into prison for a time while he was undergoing his experimentation and all of that. And it's like there's so much there to unpack in regards to what it meant for his character to be a super soldier in that time period, as you brought up. And so for Sam, it's like somebody who came before me who had the ideals of a hero but was so badly mistreated, and I'm over here given the opportunity with this shield, and I thought, based on what I know and what I see today, that it's better off for me to not be carrying the shield in whatever capacity. And it's to know that this man came before me might have changed my point of view. So it's a really cool character thing that they're doing here with Sam as well, kind of unlocking some stuff in his mind of what it actually does mean to carry that shield, to be a symbol beyond the hero itself.
I do also touch upon who's playing him.
Yeah, exactly. Go ahead.
So Carl Lumbly, who's a fantastic actor. The thing I was most associating with him was in the early 90s, there was a TV show. Actually, you know what? I kind of want to double check on this as well, because I think so. But there was a TV show called Mantis. He played a scientist who was stuck in a wheelchair. He was paralyzed, but he became a superhero by putting on this like armor that allowed him to stand and run and whatnot. So that was my first introduction of him. Okay, yeah, that's what I thought. The show was actually created by Sam Raimi as well. Oh, so yeah, that would explain why I liked the show when I was younger. So that he comes from playing a superhero in his background. He also did the voice of Martian Manhunter in the Justice League cartoons from the late 90s, early 2000s. So yeah, he's got that superhero background. But yeah, I love seeing him in this role.
Yeah. And then the other thing I want to highlight real quick before we move on.
I was saying we got the picture of him.
Yeah, picture. Yeah. So Isaiah Bradley, in his old age, for sure. And then it's funny because if you actually look at the comic book character, he is huge. He's a big guy.
Yeah.
I mean, like, he's beefy. He's a big guy.
He's Rob Liefeld drawing Captain America huge.
Yeah, he's a big dude. And then like they do the wide shot of him, and it's like, oh yeah, that guy looked like he could wreck some fools. Still, even now. So that was really cool what they were doing with him. But the other cool thing that I want to note is that it was his grandson that opened the door, or that answered the door for Sam and Bucky. And who that grandson is Eli Bradley, or Elijah Bradley, who in the comic books is known as Patriot, and he's part of the Young Avengers. He's essentially the Young Avenger version of Captain America.
Wait, who else is a part of the Young Avengers? I feel like we've heard this before. Who else?
A multitude of people who are popping up now in the MCU.
Well, two specifically I'm trying to lead the conversation to would be Wiccan and Speed from WandaVision. So basically Wanda's kids grow up and join this Young Avengers. So, yeah.
And of course, we got to highlight that we've already seen Cassie Lang in the movies, and we'll be seeing her in the future. Scott Lang's daughter, who is Stature. Yep. And then, of course, I'm sure we'll be seeing Iron Lad sooner or later too, with certain connections to other characters who will be appearing in the MCU.
They'll probably. It sounds like they're going to skip Iron Lad and just go into Iron Heart.
Well, yeah, they're going to do Iron Heart too, but I think that you're going to see. You might see both at some point in some capacity. Anyway, so yeah, you got Patriot in here. Whether or not they keep him as Patriot in the future, the same actor who portrayed him here, would be fascinating, because that's going to be one of those situations where it's like, hey, we're signing you for a guest spot in 1 or 2 episodes of this show, but you're going to be playing this character in a major capacity later on down the road. So that'll be really interesting to see what they do with that in that character. I do want to move on to, again, we're touching on the interesting aspect of this show is that they're touching on the racial issues of the day,
Mhm.
And you have a situation where Bucky and Sam are essentially arguing with each other in the middle of the street in this neighborhood. And the cops roll up because they see a confrontation happening, and they step in to try to keep everything calm and collected like cops usually do. And the individual that they first move in on to try to calm down was the black man, was Sam. And they immediately start off by saying, "Hey, you need to calm down." And he's like, "I am calm. What's your issue?" And again, we have a situation where they're portraying kind of what goes down in real life in the superhero show with the actual superhero. And you see the cop, like, honestly, if I recall correctly, I know I watched this last night. If I recall correctly, I think the cop was honestly starting to go for his weapon, or he was going for like the backup or something. He was going somewhere where it's like, "Hey, you don't need to do that." And it wasn't until his partner leaned in and goes, "Hey, that's the Falcon. Show some respect." In which the cop was like, "Oh no. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to." It's like, dude, you shouldn't have to be told. You shouldn't have to be told that that's the Falcon. You were wrong from the jump.
Like, "Oh, I'm sorry. You're of someone of importance. Please ignore my ignorance and racial tendencies."
He sees an argument between a black man and a white man, and immediately assumes the black man is the one that you need to try to control. That's what happened there, and that was not correct, obviously. So I love that the show is it's not dancing around it. It's tackling it, but it's tackling it in almost what I would think is a smart way to kind of highlight it, because you saw the same situation with the banker, where the banker gave all these excuses as to why he couldn't give them a loan. But at the same time, it's like, are those excuses really the reasons why you can't give them the loan? So and I think, honestly, this is the same stuff that we're seeing plaguing Sam with the wanting to take up the shield, because he's seeing America and where it's at and what it stands for with all the racial tension and everything happening. And he's like, is this really the time for me to take up the shield? Am I representing America properly? All sorts of manners in which, again, like when we get to the therapy scene where he's asking, Bucky, he's like, "This is not a situation that I think you or Steve even will ever understand." Yeah. And so
do I even want to defend this America as the Captain America representative? I mean, this is the way they treat me. Why would I want to represent that or be the figurehead of it? Like,
if we're going to connect that to a real life situation, we're talking about kneeling during the sports games during the
national anthem.
During the national anthem. I don't know why I can't freaking think of the words national anthem.
Hey, here's the thing. You don't ever need to know that unless that's an answer for a movie trivia question at some point coming up. Then you need to know national anthem.
Yeah, right. The words national anthem. Yeah.
Otherwise, don't worry about it. It's our own channel, and everyone will wait for you to come up with those words.
Yeah, the situation that Colin Kaepernick started with the national anthem, where he was kneeling during it. It's the same exact things. Like, I don't want to stand and sing the national anthem in a country right now where I don't feel like we're being treated as equal parts of the country. We're being mistreated and everything. So it's the same kind of situation, I believe, that we're seeing here with Sam and wanting to take up the shield. So it's a really fascinating thing that they're actually diving into here. But I do want to move on to actually move straight into that therapy scene, because I think that's one of the biggest pivotal scenes.
Excuse me, are we gonna get to any Falcon and Winter Soldier on this Falcon and Winter Soldier review?
No, let's talk about the national anthem some more.
Oh, okay.
So Skippy Peanut Butter. Anyway,
so that's a nice callback. Good callback. Very well done.
I've been working so hard at this, sort of. So this therapy scene, this was, I think, the big pivotal scene for this. It's one of the big pivotal scenes in the trailers, but for this episode specifically. And it kind of sets up what their relationship dynamic is going to be like moving forward throughout the rest of this, throughout the rest of the show, essentially.
It looked like they're about to play patty cake.
Actually, they look like they're gonna do what is that game where you hold out your hands and the other person tries to slap them real quick?
Yeah, and you try to
you try to be quicker than them. Which is fine. We make those jokes, but they actually did just move into a staring contest, which is basically the same situation.
Mm-hmm.
But I love this because while we had like the fun interaction, you're a jerk kind of element to this, we did get to dig into what is going on in these characters' headspace, as you brought up earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Where the therapist was talking to them about what's going on with them, and Bucky said, all right, you really want to just know what's going on with me? It's that Steve trusted you. He gave you the shield. That is his legacy. He trusted you with it. And, he thought that he could trust you, and maybe he was wrong about you. And if he's wrong about you, then maybe he's wrong about me, which is a big deal because Bucky has come from so much, having turned back around and cleaned up from being the Winter Soldier, that he needs that recognition from his best friend and others that he is allowed to be part of society again. He's allowed to feel normal again and all that kind of stuff. And then Sam turns around with look, you need to know that this is just going to be something that you and Steve will not be able to understand. And you just need to trust that I did what I felt like was the right thing to do. And to which Bucky didn't respond to that. And Sam was like, you know what? We're done here. But I think this stuff is really vital to who these two are as characters throughout the rest of this series and probably going forward with their time in the MCU in general. That it really shows off a lot of like what's really going on inside here, what's really causing them to do and act and be the way that they are. Is there anything that stood out to you from this scene?
I was comparing it in so much of looking back at, I believe it was Civil War was really where we first saw these two characters interacting. Them sitting in the car with like Bucky in the back seat asking Sam if he could push the car seat up, and he's like, no. And then Bucky has to slide off to the middle. I like that because you had that set up the animosity between those two characters. But then when you got into the actual airport fight, it was basically the two of them working together against Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
And they were seemingly like they weren't like on a full-on partnership, but they worked together during that specific fight. So I love that you got the two little dynamics. They hate each other, but they can work together. And all this did is just really elaborate even more on that, but then throw the therapy in as well. I think that's really setting the focal point for like how the relationship is going to be throughout this whole show. And if they're not besties by the end of this, like I want them doing like was it the Guy Love song from Scrubs between the two of them by the end of this? If y'all are familiar with, what is it, the Guy Love from the musical episode?
I'm imagining Bucky jumping on Sam's back as he takes off and going,
Falcon!
Falcon!
By the way, if y'all don't know, the two of us here are gigantic Scrubs fans. So if y'all ever want to talk Scrubs or something, we absolutely love it. So if y'all haven't watched Scrubs, y'all need to watch that. It's on Hulu. Go watch Scrubs.
8 seasons. Don't watch the 9th one. It doesn't matter.
True.
I like what Rachel brought up here. The counseling session really hurt Bucky. Rule number 2, don't hurt people. Mm-hmm. When Sam basically shut him out when he opened up for the first time. I think that's a really good note to take away from that. I really like that a lot, actually. I didn't think about that when first watching it, that he got hit with that rule number 2. Yep. Yeah, so I think what that therapy scene is going to be huge. I agree with you. They're going to be best friends by the end of it. I think that's absolutely the way the show goes. Unless MCU really want to do like the subvert expectations thing and be like, all right, we did the job. Never seen you again. Deuces. Like, I don't think that they actually go that route, but I would probably laugh to myself at least if they did that. So the next thing, and what I want to touch on as we try to get through as many of these last little bit points here as possible, is that we get John Walker coming back. He's the one that busted Bucky out of prison or jail, because he's the one that got taken away after that street confrontation. And the conversation that they have with him outside of the jail, outside the police station, is that essentially John Walker is, and I know somebody said this up here, it might have been Rachel, is that John Walker is treating this as a job, as a soldier job. And whereas Steve was treating it, Walker is treating it this as a military position to Bucky and Sam, its family. And that's true. John Walker is seeing this strictly as, okay, he was Captain America. He was a captain. I'm going to be a captain. This is how this works. This is a military thing. I'm just a member of the military who also happens to be a symbol. So that's it. That's where it stops. Not realizing that the symbol means something more than the military rank behind it. Or even just, what we all see as the hero. It's who Steve was. It's what he represented as an individual, as a human. So that's something that Walker still hasn't realized quite yet. So when he's having this conversation with them, Sam and Bucky recognize this, and they're like, "What are you even doing? What are we doing here, man? Like, you are treating this as a military position. Therefore, you have rules of engagements. You have rules that you have to abide by. We don't have to abide by those rules. We're free agents. We have more flexibility." I love
the Sokovia Accords aren't a thing anymore.
Yeah, to some extent. I think they have a little bit. They obviously have a little bit more freedom within the Sokovia Accords as to how they can interact and act. But John Walker is still military. He's strictly military, which means he can only essentially act a certain way. But then he turns around and says, "Word of advice: stay the hell out of my way." In which case, we see a little bit of spice coming from Mr. White Bread over there, and
I like that spicy white bread. I'm just saying.
Typically, you don't get spice in white bread.
Hashtag spicy white bread. That's his new nickname. I'm not calling him U.S. agent. I can't stand him. He's spicy white bread.
Spicy white bread.
Yeah. Going forward on episodes of Fat Wuss, spicy white bread. So let's check in to see what spicy white bread's doing today.
Hashtag spicy white bread.
Spicy white bread. Not just white bread, spicy white bread. We're going to get canceled so bad.
What I love about this, though, and what they're doing with his character is in the comics, before he actually became U.S. agent, he spent time as an antagonist. He spent time in a kind of a bad guy role.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the MCU, I don't think, is ever actually going to make him a bad guy. I don't think we're going to see him actually be a full-fledged bad guy. I don't think they're going to do this character plot twist with him. I think he's going to stay a good guy throughout the entire way. I think the MCU's version of him being a bad guy, and this again, we're talking about what my theory is here, and you can let me know if you agree with this or not. The MCU's version of him being a bad guy is going to be that he's just butting heads with Sam and Bucky the entire time. They're both going to be on the same side trying to accomplish the same goal, but the way they go about doing it is going to be just the entire way through. And that's going to be his antagonistic role here, essentially.
I'll go like the little step further and flesh it out that it's going to be kind of like we were talking about with the Flag Smashers earlier. We, the audience, and Sam and Bucky are going to see the Flag Smashers for what they really are. He, Spicy White Bread, is still going to be disillusioned by thinking that they're something that they're not actually, and he's going to fight for it, and that's what's going to put him in conflict with Sam and Bucky. And I guarantee we're going to get some flat out Sam and Bucky having to fight Mr. Spicy White Bread. That's definitely going to happen at some point, if not like towards the end of the series. And then at some point someone will prove to him like, hey, dude, like what you're trying to do, but you were wrong, and you need to pump the brakes a bit and realize that there's a much bigger world than what you think, and
Yeah.
that's what's really gonna like change his character. I'm calling it now. That's what I believe is going to happen, and then Mephisto's gonna pop out and control the whole thing.
And then Mephisto's going to pop out. He's going to be played by Mark Hamill for that Mark Hamill level character appearance that this show is going to have. No one's told us that yet, but I just believe it's going to be true. And then Reed Richards is going to come. Anyway, no.
I do want garlic bread though. It sounds good, delicious. It is about dinner time.
So that's way past dinner time. I think you're right here. They are definitely going to be butting heads the entire way through.
Well, I mean, with Bucky, they will be bucking heads. It will be Bucky's bucking heads.
What I'm curious is if at some point you will see him and Battlestar essentially have the super soldier serum, take that, and that's going to make that fight a little bit more interesting.
Probably.
But what I truly believe is going to happen is that we're going to have a situation where by the end of the series, he's going to realize where he's right, where he's wrong, give the shield back over to Falcon. And then he's going to say, I don't deserve to have the title of Captain America. I'm going to start going by the name U.S. Agent instead. He's going to get his own shield in some capacity, fully take up that U.S. Agent moniker.
You should call yourself Spicy White Bread.
He's going to give the shield back over to Sam, and then he's going to take up the moniker Spicy White Bread. And all the stuff that we saw in the trailer where Sam is learning how to throw the shield and everything, that's all going to happen at the end of the series.
Mm-hmm.
Especially because in those shots, it looks like Bucky and Sam are besties. Anyway.
This is our house. Let's fight for it. Yeah. Okay. Show us.
Essentially. Yeah. Let's do some clips at the end so that people want to stick around for something. We want to see Sam throwing the shield. Well, you're not going to get that probably till the end of the series.
I think that's actually the first clip. If you look at our the intro to this, I think that's the first clip I put in there is the shield getting thrown into the tree. Yes, it is.
Yep. 100%.
That's a good clip.
we came with the receipts. Anyway,
I'm glad I used that.
So that's going to be interesting. I think, you're definitely going to see some antagonistic stuff from him, but he's obviously going to turn around and be Mr. Good Guy by the end of it, obviously. Mm-hmm. There is a mention of the Power Broker in here. Power Broker is another villainous character from the comics. I don't really know a whole lot about the Power Broker. Just that he's somebody who's antagonistic against the Flag Smashers and is probably going to be antagonistic against Sam and Bucky as well. I don't know if this individual has any relation to Zemo, if Zemo, while taking up the name Baron Zemo, if he does that, is going to also be the Power Broker in some way. Do all these pieces that are floating around, are they all just one piece? Are they still multiple pieces? How is it all going to go down and work? Not sure, but the Flag Smashers did steal something from the Power Broker. He was after them to get it back, which is why they were chasing them down as the Flag Smashers were getting into that airplane at the end of the episode. So the Power Broker sent his minions and his goons after them to try to catch them. So that's what's happening. We got somebody who's known as the Power Broker out there. It remains to be seen if we see this individual, who this individual is. So keep them in mind. They're probably Mephisto and or Reed Richards. So that joke is super old, but it's simultaneously never going to get old. And then to wrap up the episode, we got something really cool, which is our first shot of Zemo, who is still locked up. Question, though. I wonder if he got blipped out of existence and then just got blipped right back into being captured, because that would be unfortunate for him. Or if he had to sit in there for 5 years while half of existence got taken away.
That's interesting. Yeah, I forgot to think about like what could have happened to Zemo during the snapping. I'm curious because Zemo has proven himself, like in the comics as well. He's a very good manipulator. He's good at manipulating situations and everything to kind of work in his favor, regardless of how ridiculous and coincidental it is. Like in Civil War, a lot of his things came together like an Alanis Morissette song. So go figure. ironic.
He's got one hand in his pocket, and the other one's giving a peace sign.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Or he's doing things in the middle of a theater. I don't know.
I knew you were gonna go there. God.
Yes, I love Alanis Morissette. Anyways, like I love his character. I love Daniel Bruhl. Like everything I've seen him in, I really love. Like his character in Inglourious Bastards was great, and I love Zemo. I could have sworn we ranked the MCU villains on this channel. We ranked him pretty high.
Yeah, I was saying, if you want to see the exact ranking, go watch that episode. Go watch that video.
Well, let me check that out real quick. I believe we ranked him like what, number 4 or so.
We ranked him pretty high.
Yeah, he was ranked pretty high because he was a really good villain. Now, granted, kind of like the joke I just made is that a lot of his stuff in Civil War was very circumstantial and just so happened to fall into place with very minimal like interference from him at all.
It just proves he's smart.
Yeah, I'm hoping to see that maybe be a little bit more rooted depending on what he's doing in this show. We've seen him in the trailers. We know he's going to be a threat, and we also know he's going to be rocking the purple sock mask. So, yeah. I'm eager for that just because that's how I like my Zemos. Purple socks on their heads. So,
I love it because once again, just the side note of that, it proves that Marvel is not afraid right now to actually go back into their character appearances from the comics and just really make them work in live action. Mm-hmm. Which makes me, again, all the more excited for whenever we get X-Men down the road.
Because I want Wolverine in the costume.
In that yellow spandex? Yeah. But yes, I love that the episode ended off with Zemo because that means we know that going into next episode, we're about to see some sweet, sweet Zemo action happening. Yes, that's right. I said sweet, sweet Zemo action. You all can look forward to that. You heard it here first. # sweet, sweet Zemo action. I don't actually know.
We keep coming up with these hashtags and nicknames. Like most of the tweets when we're talking about the show is just going to be filled with hashtags that we made up for this show. # Fatwurst. # spicy white bread. Honestly, sweet Zemo.
Sweet Zemo action. Look, here's the thing. I'm trying to give everybody something fun to share on social media to get more people in on these breakdowns because we love it when people are getting in on these breakdowns and talking about sweet Zemo action and spicy white bread. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so
I don't know why that, but okay.
I'm gonna go put some Cholula on some white bread later.
Actually, does kind of sound good.
Really? What's wrong with you?
I might throw some chicken on it.
Yeah, so I'm really looking forward to the next episode because I think this entire episode has set up some really good stuff to see going into this next episode and the remainder. Oh gosh, we're gonna be halfway through the series after next episode.
Oh, that sucks. Like
this thing's gonna ramp up.
It's not even fully set up yet as to what's going on, and we're already coming to like the midsection of this.
Yeah. I'm hoping what this means is that we'll get some more setup in the next episode, and then the last 3 episodes are just going to be balls to the wall crazy. Is that kids are using that phrase nowadays, or they moved on to something cleaner sounding? Okay, I'll never use that again. Spicy white bread to the wall.
Yeah,
whatever. Sweet Zemo action. I'm just going to keep saying that. Anyway, do you guys have anything else that we didn't kind of touch on that you wanted to talk about? Let us know. Again, we got that Streamlabs up there. Send one in there if you want to do that. Let us know in the chat, whatever you want to do. If there's anything we didn't touch on that really stood out to you, we can talk about that. We are probably going to start doing some breaking down of not Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but of our plugs here. So if you guys want to get those questions, those things in, and we will start talking about the stuff that we've got going on here.
What stuff do we have going on, Chris?
Well, funny you should ask that.
That's like Casey Kasem. You dropped into like Casey Kasem for like 2 seconds.
Or if you've watched our show, The Tagline, that happens on Tuesdays, which you'll talk about here in a little bit.
That was kind of did sound like Demon Bear a bit.
A character that I brought up there is when we were talking about the New Mutants movie. I gave the Casey Kasem voice to Demon Bear. He's like, "Hey guys, the Demon Bear here. What's going on?" But if you want to know what's going on our Patreon, you can jump over there and find out which tier is right for you right on that patreon.com/cinefanatics. I got a voice for radio and a face too. Over on Patreon, we got all sorts of stuff happening there, though. Like you said earlier, at the $5 tier, or the dude tier, we are doing the watch along to Kong Skull Island tomorrow. Monkey. We're doing the watch along to Kong Skull Island there. In which case, if you actually sign up at that tier and show up to the watch along tomorrow, you will be entered for a chance to win Kong Skull Island on Blu-ray. So you don't want to miss out on that. It's going to be a lot of fun as we gear up and celebrate the release of Godzilla versus King Kong, which is coming very soon. Also, we are doing movie trivia nights over on the Patreon. That's going to be at the Maverick tier. You can join us. They are not televised. Nothing really on our channel is, because it's the internet, but we are not broadcasting these. This is just a private hangout where we get to do movie trivia. Essentially, you get to quiz us, ask us, and help us study, because as it turns out, we are part of the Movie Trivia Schmodown's First Class League. So we've got some matches that are going to be coming up here pretty soon that we need to get some study time in for. So you can come help us study whenever we do those movie trivia nights. Typically they're kept to Wednesdays, but we might drop some surprise ones here and there, and you want to be on that tier so that you can come jump in and hang out with us when we do that. Otherwise, if you just want to sign up at the $1 tier, all you got right now is $1, and you want to put $1 towards these beautiful faces of ours. Please, beautiful faces. You can do so, and you can jump into our Discord where we talk about movies and all sorts of fun stuff over there. Keep up with these Disney Plus shows and all sorts of shows coming up. So hang out with us in the Discord, drop that $1 in the Patreon, and you can do that. What else we got going on?
Well, there doesn't look like there's any more questions or anything, so we're gonna go ahead and wrap this up. Just let us know. Oh yeah, Red Wing died. Well, he can be rebuilt. He's just a drone.
We can rebuild him. We have the technology.
We have the technology, yeah. So let us know what you thought of this format. We didn't do this like scene by scene like we have been doing the past couple of weeks, and especially with WandaVision. We don't really need to like be cutting down every single time they turn or what direction they look at in this show per se. So what do you think of this format? Do you think we kind of like flew through this a little bit better? Did it flow better for you? Let us know whether you're watching it right now in the chat. Just let us know. Hey, yep, good job. Or if you're watching this on a replay, comment down below. What were your thoughts, feelings of this and of the show itself? Just let us know down below. Also, make sure you join us for the tagline. That is Tuesday nights at 9:30 p.m. Central Time. It's where we talk about movies and movie news. That's going to be here 9:30 Central. That is 7:30 Pacific, 10:30 Eastern. And we do have rankings coming up pretty soon. We didn't have any ranking this week. There will be a ranking next week. I'm not revealing what it is, but it's going to be fun. It's going to be a good one. You'll enjoy it. Anyways,
it'll happen on that Thursday.
It will happen. Yeah, it'll be on that Thursday. So, yeah, be on the lookout for that. And also, we've got trailer reactions as they pop up. One of which I feel like we need to do real quick because I've been sitting on this all day long. So, we're going to see if we can knock this one out real quick. So, keep an eye out on this channel here in a little bit for that. Otherwise, did you like this video? Drop us a like down below because that's what YouTube likes. Again, give us a comment, share this with the people who are also watching Fat Wuss, and let them know, hey, you like these guys' commentary. They have a lot to say. They have good insight. Watch them also, and then come back every Friday when we do these live Friday night. And of course, again, YouTube is the all-encompassing, powerful one here. Subscribe, because that's what we need is subscribers. So make sure you're subscribed to this channel so you can come back. And yeah, I think that's about it.
All-encompassing power of YouTube has trapped me in this little box.
That's StreamYard.
I'm stuck in here. Oh, yes, and also our mod here, Vern, says, "Hey, now the First Class League is something he's a fan of. He is such a fan that he is doing his own after show for the FCL, and we will be highlighting that in the episodes of what we do to come. So stay tuned for that. Check that out. It's going to be over on his channel. I believe it's just Vernon Greene, or you can just search him on YouTube and you'll be able to find it whenever he pops them up. So make sure you all subscribe to him and check out what he does.
Vernon's a mod. He could actually like just put like a link in the chat real quick before we end this episode. If everyone would just go and subscribe to him, help him out there.
You
that would be Ducky.
100% hit Ducky. Oh yeah, it's 100% something he can do.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
We allow it. Go with God's son and bless.
Yeah. We've already got fans of those shenanigans going on over there. So
such shenanigans. Anyway, no other questions, guys. We want to thank y'all for joining us tonight. It's been a ton of fun breaking down this episode. We can't wait to do it again next week, in which case you absolutely can 100% join us next week. I believe we might be a little bit earlier next week than we were tonight. If not, you will find out on social media if you follow all of our social media links. So you will be able to keep up with that. Anyway, guys, we want to thank you all for joining us. Come back next week for episode 3 breakdown of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, otherwise known as Fatwas here. And we will see you guys then.
Bring your spicy white bread. It's going to be good. Later.
Zemo action.
Yeah.